What is up, YouTube? Today we're in my 2012 Grand Sport. We're going to do a Z06 oil cooler on it. This car is an automatic, so I have no oil cooling, no rear diff cooler. The automatic cars got screwed while the manual cars got dry sumps and every oil cooler you could imagine, that practically on the level of what a C7 has. So right now it is 53 degrees outside. I just started the car not too long ago. We're at 122. The problem is on my track days, which are 3 20-minute sessions, I'm getting to the 280s and 300s on my oil temp, which is not great. Not great at all. The Z06 oil cooler should really help. And here in Louisiana, we don't have cold winters, so I'm not too worried about it overcooling my oil. I know people in the forums go nuts about that. If we have a hard winter in Louisiana, I might make a little block off plate to stop the air from flowing through it, and there you go, no more oil coolers. Just the interstate cruising, and we're at 214. Just a little bit of acceleration, I can get the oil up to 225. We've been cruising at about 1500 RPM. And before we drain this oil, we're going to pull our fill cap and then get it up in the air. So I just unboxed everything, and here's what you're going to get. This goes right by the oil filter housing. The backing plate comes off, and that's what replaces it. There's also a little bung right here in case you want to run a temperature gauge or a pressure sensor, or one of the two. I have some more hardware here. Don't fly away. These are the bolts that mount to the shroud. And then here, these are blocked off right now, but you'll see there's retainer clips, and these have flared fittings that just snap in. So let's get into the car and show you what we're working with. Alright, now as you can see, that's hot. Get a little closer. Right here, this comes off, and this looks like, you know, it's definitely a sensor. It's too covered up to make out what it is. This comes off. I'm gonna drop the oil filter, drop all the oil, change the oil while we're at it. And then your line is gonna flow through here and make its way to this general area. So all you're gonna need to drain the oil is your favorite oil pan. That one's horrible. 15mm open end wrench or socket, and a oil filter wrench. So now the filter's out, new one's prepped and ready to roll. We're gonna go ahead and take this block off plate. We have a little more room to work, might as well do it now with the oil filter off. There's your backing plate with the gasket, 2 10mm bolts. And it'll make sense. That's what's replacing it. Let's see if I can get this off. Yep. There's your new gasket. Rub a little oil on this, both sides, just, you know, get the rubber nice and slippery. And that way when you tighten it, no damage. So that was one of the more irritating things I've had to install on this car, or any car. That oil line has to run against this oil pan by design, right? Okay, starting to make sense. It's not on yet. Through here, there it is again, and it's going to come out right here, okay, over the sway bar, and then you're going to tuck it right into here. Okay, some quick notes to make. I do have this tightened, just hand tight. I haven't found a torque spec, but I'm sure it's a low because it's very small, 10mm bolts. This harness up here, there's just a little tab holding this harness on the block. I did bend it back some to give this some clearance, just so it's not rubbing so hard. Let's see. Also, the same harness was right where these lines were, and nothing had to be taken off. You just simply push it up and around, up in this corner. The lines follow the block. I still haven't tackled the thought of putting this mounting tab onto the side of the engine yet. There is a little mounting tab, little metal tab right there. I might do that with the headers, I'm not sure yet. And we come to the front. Now don't be confused, there's a lot going on here. These are my two oil lines. That's a wiring harness. Over the sway bar, I believe this little plastic clip goes in right here. And here are our lines where they need to be. So I did tape off the ends of the lines, that way no debris gets in there. Probably a good idea because you're fishing this thing really hard through the car. Now that our oil lines are in the correct area, we need to pull the shroud out, which is gonna, let's see, looks like we're gonna have to pull this cover off, the intake, and this is what we're going after, is this piece right here. Alright, the shroud should be free. Two 10mm bolts on this side, two 10mm bolts on that side. One step closer to getting the shroud out. Okay, now onto the shroud itself. If you look down here, there are a few push pins. There's two on that side. There actually isn't any on this side. Wait, there's one on this side. There are two retaining screws in the bottom, and there's also two push clips underneath the car we have to get to. So, okay, I just removed this piece of rubber right here to give me access to the plastic clips right here. This is the shroud, by the way. I don't know if you can see it. These are the two clips that are holding it to the bash bar. And there's your radiator with the two lines coming out. And all of this is happening because these two lines have to puncture right through here. And that's where our oil cooler is going to go, which will be direct airflow to the front of the car, which I'll be happy about. Quick note, you're also going to remove this push pin as well. Don't forget about those two. Also one on this side, and now I believe, at least from the bottom of the car, the shroud is free. So let's lower it back down. Try to get the sucker out. Okay, shroud is out. I'm not gonna lie, I have no advice for you. That is an absolute pain, because these metal tabs down here, oh man, grab this light. Just caught metal tab down there, right there, and one over there is actually holding it. That's on top of the shroud, so very, very, very hard to finagle the shroud out. When you do get it out, you're gonna drill it. I used a 1 3/8 step bit. Let's see what size this is. Yeah, 1 3/8 went all the way through, and that way the oil cooler can have passages through. And I'm going to measure this, my mounting points, and drill the other side, drill these two, put the shroud back in the car without the oil cooler obviously in there, because this thing has to bend like crazy to get in and out. I mean, the only way to really truly get it out like a normal person would probably be pull the front bumper off the car. So the only picture I could really find of a good mounting, I can tell that this is the tab on the bottom of the cooler that mounts to the shroud, because it is asymmetrical, and it's also asymmetrical over here. They look even, but they're not, they're offset. So what I did was, so my micrometer, I measured the inside of the holes. I just measured these roughly because the holes can be so sloppy for the fittings just to pass through. Okay, all of our holes are drilled. These two as well. Now you can notice everything is about as even as I can get it, and your best friend will be a micrometer and just one of these adjustable squares. That way you can set some distances like this and this. The micrometer will help you center your holes, as you can see here. Do the same thing. And a micrometer is awesome because you can also use it as a scribe, so you can push it in the plastic. So all that came out so nice. Now I did a test fit, it all looks good. I'm gonna unbolt this, get this back in the car, and hopefully we can get this thing put back together, because that sun is about to set. So I made a discovery here. This is the bottom of your shroud, and that is the metal tab right there that everyone struggles to get the shroud over. I tried to get this out, or up and over that metal tab from on top of the car. Yeah, that's wrong. You want to pull this out from underneath the car because you have all the leverage down here. Okay, one step closer. Oil cooler is in and mounted. I went ahead and had to actually, cut this area right here on both sides because I mounted my oil cooler a hair too low. It seemed right just because of this gap. Was really nice, you know. But that was my bad. Mounted it a little bit too low. Just buy the Z06 shroud. It makes it easier. And with such a, you know, finicky job, you don't want to screw around. I don't know why I didn't buy it. I actually didn't know how hard it would be. Yeah, so let's get these lines mounted and get some oil in this car. Get all these screws back in. And we should be good. Alright guys, oil filter's on. Lines are all routed. There is a little snap pin that holds the lines from rubbing on the plastic radiator fan. And there they are. Right in front of the radiator, so let's get some oil in this thing. Oil's in, 7 quarts now because of the cooler. Everything's tightened back up. 4 bolts in your shroud, air intake. Plug that back in. Tighten everything up. I also disconnected my battery in the beginning of the project, and I just reconnected it. Taking a quick look underneath the car, everything looks good. There's just a little bit of residue from when I put it on. And this project is done. Boy, not for the faint of heart, but definitely doable. Hope this helps. Thanks for watching. It's about 50 degrees outside now, but as you can see, our oil temps after a 45-minute drive are down to 180 as opposed to 215 to 220, so definitely a good improvement.